I was born and raised in Detroit. I love my city. I adore all the growth and the architecture and all the amazing things we've accomplished, whether it be Motown or the automotive industry. And as I've traveled the world and spent time and lived in different places, I find that there's no place like home. Detroit will always be home to me, and it'll always be a place that I love. I love this staple, which is amazing. And it really inspired me to do my podcast, which is called Detroit Girl Transformed. I decided to do this podcast on Resilient Radio, which is a Black-owned station based in Detroit. And it really highlights the transformation of my city while I, as an individual, was transforming. And what kind of people come out of Detroit, which are really people with hustle and grit, who are determined and also exhibit perseverance. The podcast will really focus on different people that have different phases of transformation, whether it be their finances, their well-being, their travel experiences, how they transform their relationships, how they transform their spiritual beliefs. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing, and that's what's best for our city, and that's what's best for our legacy and our future and our family.
Welcome to another episode of Detroit Girl Transform. I am your host and your favorite Detroit girly, as well as your transformation coach, Tony Carter. Each week we highlight different guests that are here to uplift, motivate, and inspire people by sharing their transformative experiences. And this week is no different because today we are going to talk about how we mold and really build and empower our next generation leaders. So I am both honored and privileged to have two guests that are Midwest girlies, Tasha K. Goodall and Valicia Allen. Tasha, a native Cleveland Heights, Ohio, member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and also my Spesh. She has spent quite a bit. Hey, Spesh.
Hey, Spesh.
She has also spent some time. She's also spent some time developing a lot of curriculum in the city of Detroit as well. So Tasha founded and developed charter schools in the city of Detroit, Michigan, opening one in 2008 and a second one in 2011. And now she's back home where it all started in Cleveland, Ohio, as a principal in Cleveland, Ohio. So welcome, Tasha.
Thank you, Spesh. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for these hours. This is my kind of time of night where the best things happen. I call it late night rambling, so I am here for 9 o'clock.
It's girl power hour. Well, get into it.
Yes, we love this.
Yes. I know. I picked this time actually because I think it's right after dinner, right before people are getting ready to turn in. So 9 o'clock is prime time these days. So thank you for that feedback in real time.
Absolutely.
And also, I want to introduce my other panelist, my fellow Detroit girly, Valicia Allen. I've known Valicia, man, it's been about 15 years now, a little bit over 15 years. We met in Charlotte, and just like true Detroiters, because she said she was from Detroit and I was from Detroit, we were locked in. And she has started an amazing meetup group called Women of Color, where she was mobilizing women of color throughout the Charlotte, Queen City area to just do fun activities. And it actually built an amazing sisterhood. I ran into someone from that group at National Black MBA, and we were like this, like, oh, what's going on? I haven't seen you since Charlotte. And so she left us and went on to become founder and CEO of Leadership Preparatory Charter School, and that's in Tennessee. So Valicia, you also are an attorney by trade, correct?
Yes.
I mean, just a true, all the Midwest love, true Midwest girls. We are out here doing amazing things. So I am excited to have both of you on this podcast because I'm always fascinated with just the evolution of our youth, right? I think they are very different than our generation. That's just the truth, right? And so
Yes.
I think, the both of you have extremely creative and innovative ways to stay connected to them. So I'm excited to get into it. So are we ready to get into the Midwest Girl Power Hour?
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So before we get into that, I want to know, I know who you guys are, but I want the audience to get to know you. So I'll start with you, Tasha. Can you share a little bit about your roots, your family, your passion, just a little bit beyond your professional life, just who you are to your core besides before the titles and all the amazing accolades?
Yes, I love that. It's always that question when people say, "Who are you at your core?" When you strip it down, and like I say, it's like the acoustic version, right? When you take away all the sounds in the background. And like you said, I'm a Cleveland girl, born and raised. So shout out to the land and everyone listening tonight from Cleveland, Ohio. I always say Detroit is my second home, though, because Detroit definitely is where I grew up as far as like becoming an adult and a woman. So definitely Detroit helped to raise me in the adult fashion. But interesting enough, I grew up in the same house that my dad grew up in when he was a child. And I never moved.
Wow, that's
Isn't that a fun fact?
amazing.
I never moved until I went to Detroit. And so I went to Ypsilanti, particularly to Eastern Michigan. So it was always just so interesting to have never moved. But I am someone who's just passionate about family. I grew up with both my parents. This summer, they were married 43 years. So I've never known anything but that. Just, having both parents in the home was such a blessing. Having my grandparents, they were also just such an intricate part of my life. And they were very in tune with my education. I always wanted that. When all my cousins were outside, and if any of them are listening, they would tell you I wanted to play school all the time. Like I was the one like, let's go play school. And they're like, no. So I would set up my bears and they would listen to me. They were the best audience. So I would teach them how to read. And so I love, outside of just education, I love fashion. Anyone who knows me knows I love accessorizing. I love shopping. I love all things like, in the world of famous people. I'm like obsessed with like all things famous because I actually secretly wanted to be an actress, but I never really got
I can totally see that.
Right. In case anyone ever wondered, I definitely wanted to be an actress, but I always said that I was able to play that out with my students, and the classroom was my stage, and I was able to perform for my students every day. So that's how I was able to channel that energy. But at the core, I'm a lifelong learner, and I use the world as my platform. And now I get to channel that into my journey as an educator. But I'm just like, even though I'm very type A personality, probably a lot of the time, very self-diagnosed OCD. I like things where they go, but I am a good time. So outside of like just work, I like to let's go, let's do what we do. So it's who I am, and I love who I am at the core. All thanks to my parents who raised me, Linda and Alan Simon. Shout out to them, and just love my family and love being back home.
Awesome. Valicia, established in Detroit.
Listen, established in Detroit, a Detroit girl, graduate of Denby High School. Shout out to the East Side, something other than the major 3 schools that everyone is going to.
Yeah, went to King.
Right, I know you King Crusaders. No, thank you. No, I'm just playing. So we did steal your cheer, though. We did steal your cheer again. So Detroit, graduate of University of Michigan. My family is from Detroit. My grandparents migrated to Detroit before my parents were born. So both my parents were born actually in Detroit. So my grandparents migrated from Texas, Alabama, and Georgia. So really interested in that because just read an amazing book about that migration. So we can get into that all day. At my core, I'm a geek. I mean, I am very much into reading, very much into traveling, very much into exploring different cultures, and always excited to learn more about other folks. I also have always been very passionate and serious about my community. My mother has always been like, she's not sure where I came from, right? My mother is very like the Black Martha Stewart, like very into aesthetics and nice things. And not that I'm not into that, but I've always been more of a hippie and into, natural healing and things of that nature. But I've been always very serious about, why our communities look the way they look, and what can we do to better support them. I just really know I stand on the shoulders of some amazing women and men, in particular my grandparents and my grandfather. They were really pioneers in a lot of ways, as it relates to making sure that our family didn't fall into a lot of the pitfalls of a lot of other families that migrated and struggled with different things as you move into a new place. So I just stand on the powerful shoulders of folks. And so every day I know I'm worthy, right? Finally, right? Because we all go through that stage where we don't know how worthy we are. So I know I'm worthy to be here, but I'm also making sure that I am paying homage and being respectful to the shoulders that I stand on. And a part of that work is what led me to become an attorney, and work as a public defender for several years and do nonprofit work, and then ultimately start Leadership Prep to create leaders for our community. Didn't matter where, I just wanted to make sure we were creating them. I originally wanted to be in Detroit, but couldn't find the funding. So that's what pushed me to Memphis. But at its core, I'm just trying to do my best to live a purposeful life that's of service. Trying to make my dash, shout out to Corinda, mean something.
I know. Shout out to Corinda. Awesome. And I think, looking at your background, Valicia and Tasha, you both walked incredible paths that could have led you to countless destinations. And so I'm curious what motivated, inspired you, and caused you to education. I mean, that work is sacred and challenging. So Valicia, I'll start with you. What inspired you to plant that purpose in the soil of service and learning?
Wow. So I always was very serious about education. I had a teacher that really poured into me at a time when I wasn't sure of myself. I was always a little girl that could speak well and would stand up and do all the good stuff, but I really didn't really like school, right? I was serious about going and having fun, but not actually about the work of school. And so I had a teacher that just told me I was meant for more, and really pushed me to be more. And so that led me to wanting to become a teacher, but having my grandmother and also my parents tell me, oh, no, you cannot be a teacher. Like, you need to be something else. Having seen how teachers struggle, they were not down for me becoming a teacher. So I ran from it. But I ended up graduating from Michigan. I ended up teaching at a low performing charter school here in Detroit, Michigan, for a few years. And it was there that I decided that I wanted to change the education system. So decided to go to law school. Went to University of Wisconsin, got there and just got involved in like all kinds of poverty law work and criminal defense work and just all types of things related to, again, why our communities look the way they look, historical racism and the marginalization of our communities, all that great stuff. So ended up graduating, going to work for a small nonprofit law firm, did that for a few years, and then decided to move to Charlotte to work for the public defender's office there. And it was there that pushed me back into education. My clients had three things in common. They couldn't read. They couldn't even read the discovery, right? And then the second is that they didn't even know what 72 months meant to their life, right? They couldn't compute it. So they had poor math skills. And then the third, which was like the most like disheartening, especially coming from parents that really poured into me and told me I could do and be anything I wanted to be, they had a lack of hope, right? There was a hopelessness that was passed down from many instances, from grandma to their mamas to daddies, and now to them. And I had one client in particular that we had a big trial. He ended up being found not guilty. And then like 3 months later, he was back in the same thing. And I went into to meet him, and I'm fussing at him because they used to call me the teacher. He was the teacher. Yeah, you're always teaching. You're always trying to tell me something. And he was like, I appreciate that, Miss Allen. I appreciate that you think I can be and do anything, but someone should have told me that in kindergarten. Someone should have told me that before, I'm at this age where, I can barely read. I can flip this money because I gotta know how to count, but I don't see another side. And so I had like a come to Jesus moment and decided what would I do for free. I was already tutoring for free, like on the weekends and after school. So God was pulling me, but I was like, and I had a friend that told me about a program that helped people start schools. And so I applied, didn't get in the first time, applied again, ended up getting in, told them I wanted to either be in Charlotte or Detroit. They were like, nope, we got money from Memphis. And I had to decide whether it was the place or the work. And I'm so glad I did, because Memphis has been amazing to me. I've learned so much. I've met some amazing people. And leadership prep has been fulfilled a passion and a deep purpose that I knew was there, but didn't know how I was going to feel.
That's very inspiring. And I've been there where I had to decide, do I like to work with a location? And I still be like, I'm ready to just choose me. And next thing you know, to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
You got to go where God leads you. Tasha, how about you? What led you to your path in education?
On the heels of both of what you all were saying, and I agree, that was very, very inspirational. It's right on the path of faith. I looked at the soil and the planting of the seeds of that as a calling in a ministry, much like pastors and leaders of faith. I feel like education was a calling, and it wasn't like something I could run from. It was like that voice of, you are here, you were put on this earth to do this work, and I get to do it, right? I get to wake up every day and change lives. And when I started at such a young age, like straight out of college, I was a teacher at 22, and I was the young teacher. I was the young lead teacher. I was the young dean. I was the young principal. Now I'm like, my youngest teacher is 24, and I'm like, oh, right. Like, you're in the baby now. So it's one of those things where now I get to pour into that. And so it made me think about this whole journey, and thinking back to the little girl growing up in Cleveland and East Cleveland. And when I was able to say in first grade, my teacher came over to me. She said, it's something in you. I want you to take this test. And I realized in first grade, I tested into gifted, and they sent me to a gifted. And so from there, I didn't know what that meant. And now that kids now are getting tested into gifted, and they're testing off the Richter scale, I look back on that and realize, wow, okay, so gifted meant something. And I was able to just like go on this path all the way through even going to Eastern. And they said, you should be in the honors program. And even before that, I went to an all-girls school. I went to private school. My parents sacrificed everything for me to go to private school. So it's just like I knew I had to answer that calling. And I knew all the seeds that were poured into me. I was the one, of course, everybody pushed to the front. I was the one who always had to speak and present. And I was the one who hated, for instance, group projects, because I was the one always staying up like I'm gonna do tonight and do all the slides, So it's just like one of those things where I was always the one who wanted to do that. But it really is something you can't run from. Like you said, you're like, as much as you want to run the other direction, it pulls you back, because you see that kid in the grocery store, and they were like, and back then, my maiden name was Miss Simon, and it was always Simon Says in my classroom, and it was just perfect. I told them I invented it. They believed me. It was great. And so those things, like, they see you and you change their life, and it's like, you cannot pay for that. You cannot at all, think about, wow, that was somebody I taught in third grade, and now they are like, I heard a story not too long ago from one of my mentors who shared that one of my most difficult students in Detroit is now in law enforcement. And I'm like, I couldn't imagine this particular student pulling anybody over. Like, it's like, it blew my mind. I'm like, every day this child was like someone who, the student that had to sit next to you, It was like, this was the same young man who had to sit next to me. So those are the kind of stories that you just can't forget about, that seed that you planted, and you were part of that tree that has now grown. And it's a blessing, and it's a calling, and I'm proud to have answered that and continue to answer it every day.
Yeah. One of my favorite books is Purpose Driven Life, and I just truly believe that God gives us all gifts, and He doesn't give it to us to keep to ourselves. He gives it to us to heal and support his children. And so once you get and tap into your gift and you share with others, it's almost like you're getting paid for your passion. It's like when that passion intersects your purpose. I mean, nothing but magic comes from that. So And it may not be, you may be multifaceted in your skills. Like for me, for example, I took, I wanted to be a teacher my freshman year of college, and I took one course and said, yeah, that's not my ministry. But I cannot break this math problem down any further. So,
You see
however,
the new math.
listen, one class got me together. So, but I did want to develop people. And so I went into a sector of HR where there's learning and development and organizational design. And, you know, I can do facilitation at a collegiate level. So you have to figure it out. And when you do, that's when the magic happens and you really just take off. So kudos to both of you for doing what I call a labor of love and investing in our future generation, because I know that comes with complexity and also some emotional wear and tear, because your heart breaks when kids are not set up in the best environments at home, and you want to help all of them be their best self. So
yeah.
So speaking of that, true transformation often happens through connection. Can you share a powerful method, moment, or mindset shift you use to truly connect with your students and help them feel seen, heard, and more importantly, empowered? Tasha, I think we had some conversations about this before. I'm not sure if you're going to use the example we talked about, but do you have an example where you connected with the students?
Yes, I always say and believe in the mantra of relationships are foundational for learning. I always say if you get to know a child and who they really are at the core, you can get them to do anything. And that's even right. Like even in our professional developments this week, before you teach and open that book to page 1, you better know who they are, who their dog is, who the mama and them are. You better know, who their best friend is, because you want to gain that trust. And so me being the theatrical one that I am, I always had a theme in my classroom, and I always made sure that it reigned throughout the whole school year. So one year, and I kid you not, even to this day, it still exists at that school in Detroit, I had a theme of I am somebody. And it was based off of the Jesse Jackson poem. And even to this day, they still recite that at that school. All these years later, that school is the school you mentioned in 2008. And the school was named after someone and who funded the school. And so we said it every single day. They stood up and they said, I am somebody. And we turned it into a chant. And so I would, they would say it going down the hall. They would say it, wherever they, at home. Their parents were saying it. Their friends were saying it. Until it's one of those things where you believe it. So I am somebody. And so now it's on t-shirts. Someone sent me a picture recently from Detroit that it's on their sidewalk. Like it's Paul's, climbing to the door, and they see it as they walk up to the door. And that to me, all these years later, is just like that stuck with them. And grown adults are now, from my students then, they know they are somebody. And so when they had those moments of being a little bit confused about who they were and weren't making the best choices, because I always said there aren't bad children, they just make bad choices. Remember, you are somebody. And who's that somebody today? And what do you choose to do in this classroom today? Because what we not going to do, it's that speech that we seem to forget now in the classrooms, where I tell my teachers, like, don't forget, you're the one in charge here. And the somebody you are is the adult. And that's what you forget. I'm in an adult setting more so now. I deal with high schoolers. So, I think sometimes we kind of forget because they're older. But you have to remember, like, you too are somebody as the teacher. So that really connected and resonated with them. And I think that can go even on your job, even now as grown adults, when we're like dealing with people, it's like sometimes that colleague, oh, you somebody and I am too, and you too can get it. But I just want you to understand, I am somebody. Okay. All right. So it's just like that's still a mantra that can, make sure that it infiltrates through kids all the way through adults. So that was something that just still connected. And I just love that my kids come back years later, teachers come back, friends come back, and it's just spread like wildfire. So I would love to just continue to have that. And I hope that it's just, and it was on like the Super Bowl, I think this year. It was like a commercial, one of the big commercials, and people were texting me and putting it on Facebook. Like, it's the I am somebody. And it just brought tears to my eyes. So it's definitely it's a positive mantra that went further than I ever thought as like a 23-year-old teacher at that point.
And I think there's something very powerful about starting your day or starting a program with an affirmation, because
Yes.
even when I'm working with the workforce, I work with an organization in Chicago, it's Christian-based, called CARA. And so every morning before they got into the job development, job readiness, they gave them I always talk about there's the hardware and the software. And,
Right. Right.
we work with an organization called Clean Slate where people were homeless. And so how you got to that point is not because you didn't have a job, right?
Right.
It's going to be a lot of software. And so we started with a positive affirmation. We also did a song, like, what's your theme song? One day, my
Yes.
man in the mirror. So we did all of that to really empower these individuals before they go into the readiness program. And so they had a higher retention rate when they were placed in my organization, not just because they helped them with their resume or helped them with, getting an interview, but because they helped them believe in themselves and rebuild that individual that is standing in front of them. So kudos to you for starting that with your students, because even adults can use that every day.
Yes.
And so I am somebody. Felicia, how
That's
about
right.
you?
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
I mean, yes. Listen, you have to let them know. And adults too. I kudos that. I think for us, it's not just like one thing we do. I think it's a ton of things we do. I think I know our motto is that we want our kids to feel loved, seen, heard, and wanted from the moment they cross our threshold. And so that starts with a bunch of little things that we do. Our students are greeted each day by name, handshake, high five, hug, because we want them to understand whatever they're bringing in, you're now in a space in which you are loved, seen, heard, and wanted. And so we have a lot of rituals. We have a pledge as well that we say that our students stay. And at the end of it is, turn to someone and tell them you matter. Now go lead. Because we really believe that we are educating the next governor of Tennessee, the next president of the United States, the next CEO of a radio station. And so we have a bunch of rituals, systems, and routines that support that. I think one of the things that make me the most proud is when I hear our students talking to other students. So we have something called our I Lead values about what integrity is. So our students can say what integrity is to us and how it shows up. So I know that we're not just one of those schools that talks about integrity. We teach our students how to show it every day. And so we had our first graduating class of 8th graders probably about 2 years ago. And so they interviewed at all these different high schools. And so one of them, who had been with us since I think first grade, he came back and I said, what happened at the interview? Tell me about it. How did it go? And he said, oh, it was easy, Miss Allen. They just asked me a bunch of questions. And I said, so, what are the questions that they asked you? And he said, well, they asked me about, school, if I liked it. I said, what was your favorite question? He was like, this question about leadership. And I said, well, what did they ask you? He said, well, they asked me if I was a leader, and if I was, why? And I said, well, how did you answer it? He said, well, Miss Allen, you've been telling me I was a leader since I was 5. So I told them I was a leader, but not just because you've been telling me it, but because I know I am. I know that I can make a difference. You told us we can make a difference. Our teachers tell us we can make a difference. And I know I'm supposed to make a difference. So I think that was my favorite because it was easy because I know I'm a leader. And it just destroyed me, right? It was one of those moments that it was like, oh my goodness.
When the light bulb went off.
Right. He's been listening. Like they've been listening. All these rituals, routines, systems that my hardworking educators and my leaders put in place are actually doing the work that we want it to do, which is making sure we're cultivating babies, Black and brown babies that feel like they have a voice and that they matter and that they can lead. And so that was one of the moments that really solidified to me, outside of countless others, because I greet them every morning. My team knows, like, if you come to our school, anybody come to our school on Friday, we have a dance party. I feel like I'm the best dancer. No one else agrees with me, but
I like
that's
a good dance break at a business meeting.
Love
like,
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have dance parties, handshakes. So I think with us, it's just multiple small moments that create relationships with our students.
And I love that because those are very impressionable moments. I'll actually tell a quick story. I went to Alonzo W. Bates Academy, which is for the gifted and talented in Detroit. And we had an incident with, and those of us that went to Bates, we know Miss Gibson. We had an incident where there was gum on the table. And so Miss Gibson was asking us who put the gum on the table, who was chewing gum in my class. And nobody would cop to it. And so she had an idea of who she thought it was. And we had a full-blown trial. Okay, we put that, I mean, we set up the classroom like a courtroom. I was the head litigator, okay, and I remember that because I fought for my client. Ms. Gibson was the judge, but just the amount of prep and excitement we had to put one of the students on trial for gum on the table. We will never forget that story of integrity, because if that didn't tell you to fly straight, because she set up we had a whole trial like that next week. I was the litigator, and my defendant, I had to defend my client. We lost the case. He did put the gum on the table, but let me tell you, I gave it my all, okay? And so for me to have that life lesson in the 8th grade, 7th grade going into the 8th grade, as well as be able to litigate so soon, it actually inspired me to join the debate team in high school. So I just think that we have to we have to tap into the potential of these students and make sure they understand the impossible is possible.
Yes.
So let's talk a little about generational shifts. Reflecting on our own school experiences, I already told my story. What fueled us, what shaped us, how today's youth differ. So how do they crave or need from us as mentors that they may not have what do they crave from us that we may not have needed back then? Because I do think the needs are different. And so Felicia, would love to hear from you. What do you think are the different needs for the students today?
Yeah. So yes, the needs are way different. What we were worried about, these kids are not in any way worried about. I think for us, and from my experience, students, number one, need the truth, right? So they need the truth about where they are academically. They need the truth about if we don't know something, and if we are telling them, giving them advice from experience that we've actually experienced this, or just something that we have seen somebody else experience, but not always preaching to them like it's the gospel, right? I think because our kids have grown a lot, right? They know stuff that we did not know at their age. And
they have access to more data than we did.
Exactly.
Digitally.
And so,
yeah,
exactly. So when you're not being honest with them, they know they will call bull on you. And so you have to be honest about what you don't know, right? And what you're really speculating on based on your limited experience. So I think that's number one, the truth about what you don't know. And then the other piece is, I think, compassion, right? Because we don't know what it's like to grow up in the current age specifically that we're growing up in, where there's this hypermasculinity, there's all this racial tension. There's a lot of work around really trying to find your purpose in a world where people are telling you need to be this, or no, you shouldn't be this, or if you're this, you should be that. And so really helping them navigate that in a meaningful way that doesn't just lecture at them, but actually shows compassion to them. And I think that's a part of what we try to cultivate at Leadership Prep. We try to listen to our students, but we also hold them to high expectations, right? So it's not compassion with do whatever you want. It's high expectations. And now let's talk about, what's actually going on and what happened. But then let's also understand that you are a leader. We need you in this world. We need you to show up. So I think those are the two things for us that I think students need. Truthfulness about what's really happening and what we do know, and the compassion piece, I think, are the only way forward to make sure we're cultivating leaders.
Yeah, and I currently have my niece with thing is really activating me, but it is growing me in a different way, because she'll be like, why can't I have my phone? I'm like, because I said you couldn't, but let's go deeper. If we must, you can't have your phone, because technology at so many hours is not good for what you need to do. Like, now I got to get into all this that my mother did not have to get into.
We used to, because I said so.
Right, because I said so.
Period.
Right. I don't even remember asking my mother why. Right?
Wish I would have.
Listen, she be wanting to know what time am I getting my phone back? When she lose her phone, I can't say she getting it back on Tuesday. I gotta say you getting it back on Tuesday at noon. And I'll be like, I'll be ready to crash out. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, I don't know about this gentle parenting, but I'm working on myself. So, Tasha, what about you?
I definitely think for me, because I do work in the dropout recovery adult kind. I take up to 21-year-olds in my building,
Oh, wow.
who have been, yeah. So for me, it's the idea of kind of the opposite. I mean, like, these are adults, you know, at the end of the day, they've been dropped out, kicked out. And my thing is, what they need is to be heard. And like we said, we were intrinsically motivated. You know, we were the ones that it didn't take a whole lot to get us to do anything. And a lot of it in research shows, you know, this side of COVID, post-COVID, I don't care what anybody says, and I feel like most of us agree, it took something from all of us. It took a piece of the way we knew how life was, right?
Yeah.
So it's like this new wave of life, this new normal, if you will, is like really did a number on our kids. It really did a number of like their socialization, how they really function. And they already were still like developing. When people say, oh, my child was like in 4th grade when COVID was happening. Now they're like in, you know, 9th, 10th grade. You know, it's just it's so much time.
COVID babies going.
Yes, they're going to kindergarten. That, you know, that's the logistics of it all. Like, they're going to kindergarten.
And they are very interesting.
Ooh, yeah. That's a real thing. And so I feel like for my students, it's a little different because they're so used to hearing no. And they're so used to hearing like you're saying, even with Mackenzie, it's like, you know, you can't have that right now. My task in my building, I don't have a no cell phone policy. It's let me teach you how to function with it. You know, I don't take cell phones from my kids because you need to learn how to use it on a job. You need to know when to have your phone and when not to, when to have your device. And if it becomes an issue after I have showed you, then we're going to have a different conversation. But I just feel like what they really need,
that's really innovative, actually.
That's what I do. And when I talk about it to other principals, they're like, oh, that makes sense. I said, aren't you tired of like fighting with them all day about this? Like, I don't ever, and they respect it. I'm not going to fight you. And I said, Ricky Smiley said it best. He says, I don't take my kids. He said, I don't take my kids' phones. I take their charger and let them watch it slowly die. He says, I don't. I thought that, I mean, that's the best thing you ever said.
Oh, yeah, because I took Kizzy.
I'm like, I love
Kizzy charger.
But I literally do not take phones in my school, and they just respect it because they know, from back to that, what I said is relationship building. They trust me. They know that I'm, I don't want to lose her respect. I don't want to lose. She's right. She don't play about, me and mine. So that's the relationship we have to have. So I feel like another issue, especially because I've been dealing with older kids the last 10 years, is social media. We didn't have that issue back then.
We did not.
I tell them all the time, we did the same dumb stuff y'all do. Here's the difference. Y'all let the whole world know the same dumb stuff we did,
Right,
and so
right.
you want a whole broadcast. I always say Monday morning was the worst because the whole weekend unravels on Monday morning. So it's just that kind of thing that we didn't have to deal with out loud, and they have to navigate it now. And they do have these feelings that are just on the sleeves, and we have to, as administrators, deal with it as it comes out and unfolds. So we just dealt with things so differently. Our parents dealt with things so differently. I noticed a lot of my high school parents are still like, I don't want to put this out there, but they just handle them differently. I'll say that. Like you said, maybe a little more gentle parenting, a little bit more like sometimes we find ourselves parenting them more than, like, I found myself like checking a mom the other day and I was like, oh, I was like, oh.
Always.
I'm like, damn, no, like mom, but sometimes it's just like that. You're the problem. I just want you to know that. But but that's just different from what we experienced. And now we have to like pour into them, but we're part of the village, right? That It takes the village mantra is real. And so being a part of that and showing that, let me show you how to infiltrate yourself into the real world. And that's how I approach basically and literally the adults that are in my building, because that we have to show them the way, that when we were just like, okay, we're going to do it because that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah. And I remember going to my mother she couldn't get a babysitter for me for one parent teacher conference. And, you know, I had my rebuttals ready. Okay. And so we got there and I'm like getting my, you know, cause I like to argue. I do. I wouldn't say I like to argue because that's very derogatory. I like to challenge beliefs. And
I like that. Challenge beliefs.
Yeah. Challenge positions and beliefs. And so I'm ready to go in there. And so as I sat down, my mother know her child, and she looked at me, she said, before you get started, they don't get paid to lie on you. You are literally here as a fixture. You don't need to say a word. You are only here because I couldn't get a babysitter, and I don't want to hear nothing come out of your mouth.
Listen, if all mothers were like your mother, how many times I repeat that a day? We listen, we are not here to lie on your child. Ever.
Right. What do we gain from that?
Right. We don't get paid anything extra if we get little Bobby in trouble. Nothing extra. Like
my whole little bubble was buzzed because I had a whole dissertation ready. She was like, before you get, she knew it. She must have seen me ramp it up. She's like, they don't get paid to lie on you. So
I love it.
You are here because I didn't have a babysitter. You are not here to compensate. And I was like,
what?
Right. Sitting there quiet, burning up. Like, but you know, for the most part, my feedback was good. It's the same thing. I get my work done early and I talk to everybody else. So, you know. So, you know, they tell me when I get, my dad used to say when I get home, okay, you're smart, got it. But like, you got to let other people do their work too. But I was ready to argue that and just say, you know, I should be able to be free. But my mother said, they don't get paid to lie on you. So you be quiet.
Right.
Should have challenged you. Should have gave you more of a challenge.
Well, let me get it out. At least let me tell her in the car. She did not never want to hear it. Not never. So let's go a little bit deeper. You know, I think you both talked to, as I'm disappearing, let's go a little bit deeper. I think you both talked about that, you know, the need to invest. Why is it so critical now to invest in young people to create a lifelong impact? And I'll start with you, Tasha.
Invest is such a perfect word to ask about, because we both talk about, we're in the charter school world, both of us, and it comes with a lot of, yes, we still get public state funding and things like that, but an investment to even open up the work that we do is a huge part of our work. And so I know particularly just what I do as far as dropout recovery, unfortunately and fortunately, that's becoming more of a safe haven, but it is needed because the traditional high schools, the big high schools, the big spaces, I'm getting kids who are just falling through the cracks at these huge, 1,000 kid high schools, but come to a space like mine and they thrive. So it's not even always just, the idea of, because you got kicked out or you dropped out. It's because maybe that's just not a safe place for you as far as like your intellectual safety or your emotional safety. So that's like really important to think about too, because people hear dropout recovery, they're like, oh, you got all the kids that need to be in juvie or locked up. No, actually, no. I have the kids that you wouldn't even believe. You meet some of them, their stories that they have. So that's the investment. You're investing in the future. You're investing in the kids that are going to lead one day. The stories that come out of that investment is what's really important. And so I think that's the work that we, again, get to do. And even the kids that are coming out of a school like leadership prep, it's like, that's what's important. Like the way you're pouring into them and saying, I'm a leader, and where they're going as they have those high school interviews, it's like, that's the investment. That's what you've been telling them since they were 5, so it's different ways that you're able to do that. And as we push them out of the nest, so to speak, and get them to go into, the real world. I think about my own daughter, she turned 6 this summer, and you think a lot about like, you can't tell her she's not leading somebody somewhere.
No, you cannot tell my baby.
Like she thinks she's just be leaders. So it's like, it's what we invest, is what we pour in, to the future. So I think, what today is really needed. I think we have to put out there about funding. I think that's a lot of things that we talk about with the way we write grants. I even talk to my students. Part of an elective for us, a graduate credit, is financial literacy. So I talk to my students a lot about writing grants and what it looks like to advocate for yourself and for your dreams. Even as far as like, a lot of my girls want to open up their own hair shops, and they're doing an STNA program. So how do you write your, business plan? How do you, make sure that you're doing something that's going to help invest in your dreams and yourself, and have for your own. They get out of school at 12:30, so they can go and do those types of things. So it's just a lot of different ways to understand that loaded word of investment and what it means. And even pouring into, one of the things I should have shared too is why I went into education, is because I needed kids to have people in front of them that look like them. And that was like really important, like to see successful people in front of you that look like you, and let you know that you are somebody, and and that was important. And that is an investment in yourself. So it's that word makes me excited, because I feel like it just has so many different connotations and different connections. But I think it does all tie back to what we do in charter schools. And I think a lot of people, that has a negative connotation too. Like, people hear charter school and they're like, charter schools taking all the money from public schools, and right? Don't you hear it all the time? And I'm just scared. But I'm like, well, then you don't understand really how charity works.
You don't really understand what we do. You don't.
You don't understand.
You earned every penny.
Right. We're not just funneling kids into a place because of their address. Like, it's giving them a choice, So, and that's an investment in itself. So don't get on my soapbox about that.
We can get on it together. Like, investment is big for me as well, because I've come from it from the standpoint of, as folks of color, we need to honestly invest in charter schools.
Yes.
Because they are the best way for us to take hold of our community and what our students are learning, what's being poured into them, what expectations look like, who we can put in front of them. So I'm not just a proponent of charter schools, I'm a proponent of strong education, but more importantly than that, I'm a proponent of education that is community built, community led, community run. And what many of us don't understand, in particular in communities of color or marginalized communities, charter schools are the best way to be able to ensure that your students are getting the support that they need, whether it be as it relates to special needs, or whether as it relates to just different things that your students might need. We have a lot of students that don't maybe have a 2-parent household, and that's vice versa. I'm not just beating up on men not being there. Some of the women aren't there. And so a lot of our teachers understand that. And so we're able to color outside the lines for that. And so I think it's important to invest in charter schools, not just charter schools, but in schools and in the community, and the school that the community that supports the school, because it really is the best way for us to take hold of our babies. I think often in traditional public schools, just in schools in general, but in particular larger district type schools, kids get lost in the shuffle. And when the administrator, when my parent can come up to the executive director and say, hey, this is what happened. I need to talk to somebody, or can go straight to the board meeting. We have open board meetings, can come to the board meeting and say, hey, this is what's going on. I need some clarity around this. There's power in that, right? There's power in that. So I think the investment part is in particular important for folks in communities of color.
I love that. Well, I am enjoying this amazing dialogue. I do want to take a quick commercial break. So special thanks to our sponsors for this episode. We have a sponsor, Ms. Valicia, and the Leadership Preparatory Charter School is a sponsor of tonight's episode, as well as Potty Products. So we're going to go to a quick commercial, and then we'll come right back and finish this dialogue, because we are fearless about our leaders of the future.
We asked a group of scientists, what does it take to make the perfect toilet paper? And here's what they said. That's right. Use potty products, please. Thank you.
All right, welcome back. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes. Mhm.
All right. So I just want to know before we get into any more conversations, I know that being a transformer is extremely taxing, right? So what do you do in your sanctuary? What do you do for peace and relaxation?
Ooh,
Yes.
that's loaded. You I can jump in there. I would definitely say part of my piece is there's two parts to that. One is my family as a whole. I know that peace is not always, I need a solo and then I need my family pours into me. My husband is my place of peace. Like he definitely is the one who supports everything that I do. He's like my calm. And it's kind of funny because we're so opposite. People meet him and they're like, "You two are married?" Like because he's so opposite from me. But that works because he keeps me like grounded. So just being with him and my 3-year-old and my 6-year-old, my son and daughter, like just being together just on the couch, cuddled up, watching a movie that I usually fall asleep on because I'm so tired all the time. But it's just knowing that they're there is my peace. And the second part of my piece, don't laugh, guys, but the second part of my piece is going to the car wash. Like literally, I go to the car wash, and it's something about just the water coming and me not driving for those few seconds and just the car just moving. It's just like something about it. So I have like an unlimited, like, membership, and I just go sometimes 2-3 times a day. I don't know.
So when we looking for you, we gonna be like, where Tasha at? She driving through the car wash.
At the car
Go
wash.
to Shane.
It's so sad. And my sister, she has my location and she checks my location all like periodically quite a bit. She was like, "Oh, I see you're at your happy place," So it's just what it is. It's just try it. I just share it with the world, At the car wash and think of me. That's that. It's just a peaceful place. But no, my family in the car wash, my secret's out.
Yeah. And I would say, up until probably about 2 years ago, I was not finding a lot of peace, right? I was just working, overworking like we always do, right? 60, 70 hours a week, just grinding it because we feel like we have the world on our shoulders. And if we don't get it done, it's not going to get done. And then probably about 2 years ago, maybe a year, but 2, I realized that I needed to figure out how to find peace. And so much of my peace now comes from, number one, giving myself grace, right? Giving myself grace to not have it all done, to not have it all together. Sometimes something is not going to be in on time, and that's okay. So the first part is grace. The second part is I started doing yoga and meditating, and it has
Yoga's great.
Life. Like it has changed my life. My nervous system has calmed down. I know how to detach from stuff. I might get frustrated for about 5 minutes. And honestly, after that 5 minutes, I'm good. And people are confused because the old me I'm venting about it and I'm still upset about it. And so they're expecting that, but I just get quiet and I'm really done with it. So I would say if you are a leader out there, you gotta find your happy place and what will support you calming down your nervous system. If it's working out, if it's yoga, if it's the car wash, if whatever it is, but something to calm down your nervous system. So for me, it's reading, getting quiet. But the number one thing is giving myself grace because I realized I wasn't, right? I had to have it all together. And once I released that and moved past that, I was able to move into those other spaces of taking the time for meditation, right? No, you have the 20 minutes for this meditation. You have it, like, period.
Now I'm a good 5-minute meditation type of girl. And I've also learned how to do it, like being present in certain activities, whether it be taking a shower and not thinking about all the 50 things I have to do for the day. So 10 minutes is good, but 20 minutes, you in there.
Listen, and releasing those shoulders, I realized I was always like this.
Tight.
Yeah.
So, now I just feel when I'm like this. And I just know how to be like, let's go. Like, let's chill. Nothing is that serious.
I like to go boxing class. I like to hit stuff.
So you can beat up on somebody.
Hit the bag, hit the bag. Somebody's name might be on it that morning, but
Listen, we do what we have to do.
Do what works.
Do what works. So students aren't just learners, they're teachers too. I think, they reveal a lot about ourselves. So what have your students revealed or taught you about yourself? Melissa, I'll start with you. What have your students revealed or taught you about yourself?
Whoa. They have taught me how to have patience. That is probably number one, how to have patience. They have revealed, I'm just so grateful to my students and the parents because they have really helped to reveal my purpose and help for me to live out my purpose. Because without them, I wouldn't be living out my purpose every day, which is supporting, my community and supporting them. But they've definitely taught me patience. They've taught me how to laugh, right? Laugh at stuff, move past stuff. And I know that as much, of even the 60, 70 hours a week were stressful, they've also taught me joy, how to find joy in the smallest thing. Because, to have a 5-year-old run up to you and hug you and say, I've missed you so much. Where have you been? And you just saw them 5 minutes ago. It's like, it's nothing like it. It's nothing like it.
Pure joy.
Yeah, it's pure joy, right? Or I like your hair. And it's like, I look a mess right now, but I appreciate you, baby. Thank you. But pure joy. So they've definitely taught me how to find joy in the smallest thing.
Yeah, my niece compliments other women and other children a lot. So she has taught me how to be that girl that gives kudos and recognizes other women. Like we're somewhere, she's like, I like your hair, I like your shoes, and she has so much joy when she says it. And I'm like thinking about what's going on, and I was like, I
Mhm.
need to do more of this. My niece definitely is teaching me that.
Yeah,
How
that's
about you,
awesome.
Tasha?
That's such a great question. I think of it, they've taught me forgiveness in real time. I think because sometimes I used to just, when I say real time, like in the moment, like the moment that something happens, like I'm like,
You got to forgive them right now.
I gotta forgive you right now because for real, like I might not talk to you for a couple of days, but I realize you're a child and I'm the adult, so I'm gonna forgive you right now and realize we gonna move on from this. And
You're a little
have to
emotional gangster,
get
but
back to
okay.
our relationship and know that I'm gonna forgive you in real time. They definitely taught me about accepting their opinions. I started something as a teacher before I began carried over to being an administrator. I started giving surveys at the end of every quarter to my students and parents, and I started reading them. And I thought I was crushing it. Like, I am killing this teaching and administrator game. Like, man, I know I'm doing the things. But then, like, reading their feedback and my teachers as well, I wanted to grow from that. And so understanding that children have opinions, very strong and very honest opinions, but that survey helped me to understand like where I could grow and where I can go from there. So their opinions matter. Definitely their parents' very honest opinions matter. They have an opinion about everything, but really everything.
Everything.
Like from everything you do. But really it was the kids' voice that I really leaned into and helped me to really shift things. And when I did, they were like, wow, Ms. Goodall, you really listen, because they saw me make the changes. And so that was important to me. And lastly, they keep me young. I mean, they teach me the TikTok dances. They teach me all the technology. I feel very current, very young. And the best thing of all, how to do my edges. They're not very
How to
good
do
right
our edges. That's what.
but
That's what
they keep my edges tight. They teach me how to do the swoop is there. I feel very connected with my edges. So so I really appreciate how they bring me where I need to be. So I love them. I love my girls for that. They make sure my edges are edging. And I love that.
I love that. I love that for you. I love
I
that for you.
love it.
I love that for you. Maybe I need to get around high schoolers, and then I'll know how to do my edges.
I mean, they really are committed. They're committed
It's a
to
real thing.
this.
Like, I mean, I had to learn how to do mine and my nieces for camp. It was like a whole edge
It's a whole thing.
conversation. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
they
okay,
don't
well,
play about those edges.
I mean, I'm like, at some point, that ain't baby hair no more. I mean, you got a lot of it
Right.
out.
I'm
But,
like,
you
is
know,
some of that the rest
go
of
off,
your hair?
sis.
Or,
Go
Yeah,
off.
yeah. That's what I asked one of my middle schoolers. Is there really edges at this point?
right. It's still the
At this
edge.
point, it's a separate hairstyle. But I mean, get it how you live.
For work. Show me and then go to class, girl. I don't know.
I know. Go ahead. So last question, because I feel like, one of the things about great leaders is how we pique our curiosity. And I consider myself a lifelong learner. So I love to hear from both of you. What are you reading, or what article are you obsessed with right now? Like, what's on your mind? Felicia, I'll start with you.
Right now I am reading, and of course it is on the tip of my tongue. Jesus, I want to pick it up right now. But it's about intention. It's about everything you do being steeped in intention. And that's something that is really important to me right now, especially as I move into this next chapter of my life, in which I start supporting a new leader of leadership prep, a new executive director, to find her purpose and what is my intention around that. Because I feel like sometimes folks stay too long, and so it's time for new blood. And as I support her and forward and creating our birth to pre-K center and really falling into the intention around that. I also love a good historical fiction book. So I'm reading Harlem Rhapsody as well, which is kind of it's like a fictional story about W.E.B. Du Bois and his last mistress. And so I love historical fiction. So that's also just piquing my interest around just, again, remembering whose shoulders we stand on. Like we stand on some shoulders of some folks that went through some stuff so we could be here today and be able to support our babies in the way that we support them, and be leaders of schools and be entrepreneurs and just be out here living our best life. So those are the two things. And I'm going to put it in chat. And it's an old book. Oprah loves this book. So hard or something. I don't know. And I'm surprised I'd never read it before, but it's deeply around setting your intentions and ensuring that everything you do in life is followed by an intention that matches your heart and your purpose.
I love that. Tasha, what about you? What are you reading, or what article are you obsessed with, or a documentary?
Right now I had a leader back in Detroit who always led a lot of our work around Brene Brown, and I just love her. And one day I want to go and just see her live and in person and follow. I just love her work. And I'm reading one of her books, in my spare time. I don't care if it's 1 or 2 pages as I'm dozing off at one point. I love her Atlas of the Heart. And it talks about the 87 emotions of the human experience. And if you think about even the 3 of us right now sitting here, think about our going through 87 emotions, each of us. And the 3 of us even connecting tonight, like all the emotions that we go through as humans, and then we go to work together with everybody else's 87 emotions. And then, and so how does that work with the human experience of life? And so just the way her mind works and how raw and real she is, I'm like obsessed with her work. And so I just love her. So I would just with one eye open, if I have to, I would read Brene Brown. I'm like obsessed with how she thinks and how she motivates leaders and how she really gets you to dig deep into and this is one of her latest, I believe, the Atlas of the Heart, and just kind of like the heart map and the way it moves you and transitions you through your emotions. And so I would recommend her to anyone and everyone out there listening.
And even if you just do her, because I'm obsessed with Brene Brown as well. So even if you just watch her TED Talks, I think she has such a powerful TED Talk on empathy. And she gives like basic concepts so much life, right? Like there's a significant difference between sympathy and empathy, right? So for example, if I said, hey, I really had a rough day today. My dad passed away. And, instead of saying, oh, I understand how you feel, right? Or I'm sorry you feel that way. That's sympathy. And I always tell people, you didn't, like when it comes to my dad, I lost my dad. You didn't lose my dad. So even if you lost your dad, you didn't lose mine. So I want you to have empathy. And empathy is more like, that is understandable, right? For what you are experiencing versus really trying to sympathize with something and so she just gives you those life lessons, and she teaches you how to be vulnerable as a leader, which is something very important for people in human resources, because we have to deliver policy, but you got to be like, you know what? I don't like that policy either, but this is where we are. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I think people connect when you have that realness. So I would say the same. I'm reading something called Managing Transitions. I'm in a big transition. And it's just really talking about like, we were born in a transition, right? Entering out of a birth canal is the greatest transition we'll ever experience. So if we can get through that, we can get through anything.
Right.
Right. So just not being afraid of that. So oh my goodness, it has already been an hour of Girl Midwest Power. And I tell you what, with 2 dynamic leaders like yourself, time flies when you're having fun. So thank you to Tasha and Valicia for an amazing episode. Thank you for pouring wisdom, encouragement, and passion and light into tonight's conversation about our next generation leaders. Your work and your legacy will live on. It's a true honor to have you on Detroit Girl Transformed. I hope to have you back. I like to have reoccurring guests at some point. So to all of our listeners, just remember, transformation begins with a single decision to change. What do you want to do differently? Keep showing up, keep evolving. Check us out every Tuesday at 9 p.m. on Detroit Girl Transform on the Resilient Radio stream. If you would like to be a sponsor of Detroit Girl Transform on today's episode or future episodes, reach out to me at dgt313podcast@gmail.com. I am so excited about Transformation Tuesdays. I'm honored to be your transformation coach virtually. And so I want to give a quick sneak peek of next week's episode, but thank you to Tasha and Valicia for a job well done and a great conversation.
Thank you. Being a gracious
Thank
host.
you. Yeah. Thank you for the work you're doing to uplift not just Detroit, but just transforming our community. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Absolutely. This was
Yeah.
Thank
great.
you.
Great hanging out with you guys tonight on a fun
I
Tuesday
know.
night.
We got to get together in person. I mean, if we can get this accomplished on the screen, what can we do together, right?
Right.
Especially both of you being in the transformative space of charter schools. So
Yes,
thank
I
you.
need to connect with you. I have someone moving to Memphis from Detroit, and that means I definitely need to connect.
Please, yes, please do. We always need strong
Yeah,
folks. So
Alicia
please.
is good at building community. As I said, in
Yes.
2009, when I moved to Charlotte, she and I crossed paths when she was building community with women of color. So she is definitely someone that you should connect with, connect your person with.
Definitely.
So next week, we're going to have a transformative discussion that really kind of slides into counseling and how we want to build out our community as it relates to do we want to go on different paths for counseling and healing. So I'm so excited about that. Special thanks to our individuals, our panelists today, Valicia and Tasha, for just an outstanding episode tonight. And so check us out again every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Transformation Tuesday. And we will see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you all.